Hey, what's going on there, YouTube? This is SCL0320 back again for another review for the Marvel Week Extravaganza. It's so stupid and funny, but I have not released any of these videos out. I'm going to put them all out on the same exact day, which is going to be Thursday. I'm finding out that I'm probably going to only get through Phase 1 up until Thursday, and I think I'll probably go through at least Thor: The Dark World. Or either Iron Man 3. And I'll stop there because I've already done reviews for Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain America: Winter Soldier. But this review is going to be on Iron Man 2. And then the next one I'm going to look at, maybe tonight, is going to be Thor #1. So, Iron Man 2, it reprised the role of Tony Stark of Robert Downey Jr. and Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts. But then it introduces Armie Hammer, that's played by Sam Rockwell. Introduces Mickey Rourke, that plays the villain Whiplash. And then it gets Don Cheadle, that's going to be replacing Terrence Howard as Rhodey. And when I first thought about the movie, when it first came out, I really liked it. A lot of people really didn't like it. I think for me, I see beyond what the whole grand scope was. For me, and a lot of people saw that there was one thing that they really didn't like, and I realized I dissected it from the beginning to the very end. It was the end that kind of where it all fell through. But up until that point, the introducing of Tony Stark back into the fold and seeing that he's dealing with the thing that's keeping him alive is killing him. I thought that was really great story arc. Not just that, they started delving into the political scene of why Iron Man can still be here, and really he's technically a vigilante even though he's out himself in certain world. Like, why is he not part of the government? That plays into what's going to be the Civil War ultimately with the Registration Act and everything. So I thought that was really cool to get to see that. Not just that, the person that plays Senator Stern is actually one of the same senator that's in Captain America: Winter Soldier. I didn't even realize that he was the same one that was part of Hydra. Another part that I thought was really awesome is the fact that they reintroduced Nick Fury into this one, played by Samuel Jackson, and then they reintroduced Scarlett Johansson as the Black Widow. And I thought that her character played an interesting dynamic because it threw off everything that Tony was really kind of dealing with, having these characters in the fold with him. But then he's trying to balance relationship with Pepper and maybe her CEO, and he's just kind of down on his luck. He's dying, and he doesn't feel any way out of it, and he doesn't feel like he can stop being Iron Man necessarily, and he wants to do everything himself. And then you've got with Rhodey, Don Cheadle does a good job with Rhodey, especially in the beginning arc, and he's just kind of like this soldier-esque kind of guy, but he's trying to be a real friend for Tony. And Tony's just not having it, and they have a throwing off, and it's actually a pretty interesting fight. It kind of gets a little campish with the noises and stuff like that, but I got the gist of the fight. It wasn't just so much a physicality thing or Tony being drunk. It was really an internal battle. He kind of a self-loathing kind of thing that was going on, and I thought that was really cool. But then when they introduced Whiplash, I was like, it really actually started with him, because the whole concept was in the first Iron Man is that Tony Stark used the arc accelerator. He compressed it down to something small, miniature, that was impossible to actually do. But yet this guy that's in Moscow, and he just makes it, and then he improves it. I was like, just him being able to do that shows the caliber of danger that he presses to Tony, because it was supposedly impossible to do. So at that point, I was already sold on the character. And Mickey Rourke had a great fluid accent of what sounded like a different fluid action of a Russian dialect. But when he came onto the scene, when they went to the race car, and Tony's still kind of like living vicariously through the idea of his bucket list, like, I'm about to die anyway, I'm about to do whatever I want to do. He's kind of just doing this because his toxicity level is continuously to rise, because the scrap metal is being turned, but it's also the reactor. He doesn't have an element that was essential to be able to keep the reactor going, and it was really just burning into his body. And I thought that was really interesting too. But when Whiplash finally does meet him out there on the track, and he just takes the track out, that was the first trailer I saw. I was like, man, this is epic. Like, he actually had somebody that mentally already knows what he's doing, but at the same time, physicality, he's just there. It was really menacing and really scary. And I thought, man, this is a really great beginning to this. And then when it got to the middle, and like he kind of had his falling out, and then like he gets reintroduced to Nick Fury that, look, your dad is the one that has something big on the horizon. And his whole perception of his dad was that his dad didn't like him. And for him to be kind of like governed by that realization, to know that his dad, when they had the scene where he was kind of like seeing like the different photos and stuff of his dad, and then he finally went through this video that his dad did for him and left for him, that he basically was like, my greatest accomplishment is you. I was like, wow, that's seriously on point and on par to what he really needed internally to fight. It's because from that point, he created the element, and I thought that was really interesting touch. And it's funny because Agent Coulson kind of came in, and he needed a prop, and he used like the Captain America shield that I think is one of the old ones that probably Howard Stark had, and it was just kind of like a makeup, but it was a subtle nod to Captain America, absolutely. But it got towards the end, and basically you find out that Whiplash really had this ulterior motive to working with Armie Hammer's character. And Armie Hammer was an interestingly funny character. I didn't have any fault with him. I think it was the final act that I was like, at the point where all the robots, they turn on everybody, you know what I'm saying? And like the whole plan was kind of put into motion because basically Black Widow had kind of went and infiltrated the location of where he was at, and they were trying to catch him, all to find out he had already escaped, and he was all trying to bring everything to the forefold. And it was crazy because Hammer augmented one of the suits that Tony had that Rhodey stole and made War Machine. I thought that was really cool. But it was like, after that point, when they left the end of the expo, it just became really anticlimactic, and it became really predictable. The fight was cool. It was really cool, especially when they were kind of competing back and forth. I was like, wow, this is some awesome visual effects and some awesome CG. And I mean, they played it really well, but it was like, it was way too easy. I mean, it wasn't easy in the sense that when they were fighting him, I mean, he was giving them a run for their money. But I feel like that character was so good, or could have been better, that they could have changed up the way the last part of the arc was. And I think that the finish, it left a bad taste in people's mouth versus how the finish of the first one, it was a great punchline to the beginning. This one kind of felt like a sequel of a sequel versus a sequel that is good, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's the whole difference with this one. I enjoyed it. I give it an 8 out of 10 too. At the least a 7.5 out of 10, because I was entertained from the first half. The second half, it was just kind of the third half that kind of like hit me up. And so I might give it a 7.5. But that's my review for Iron Man 2. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. I went a little bit over the 5-minute purge, but I had to talk about it a little bit more. Anyway, this is SCL 0320 signing out. Later, everybody.